it's going.
Okay. As a mom of a special needs child, special needs, handicapped, brain injured, hurt. I personally like the description of a hurt child, which can happen to you anytime from before, during, or after birth to anybody. I have avoided doing this for a long time, but it has come to a point where I need to speak up in defense of my child because of some seriously hate messages on a YouTube video I made, and the fact that I believe this has only been in the last month where that video to help other parents, which I put up there to support and help any other parents from our experience, in 2 years, 20,000, hits. Nothing negative has been said until the last month, and I'm concerned because I think that our presidential candidate has put a stamp of approval by his actions that it is okay to mock the special needs and the hurt and the handicapped. And, when my daughter, who's now 36, was born, we've come a long way since then. And I would hate to see us go backwards, which I think this type of behavior will put us backwards to institutions like the documentary Lost in Laconia, which was, people just because they didn't fit into what we consider norm, were just put away in an institution and mistreated and, no different than what we always do when we're fearful. We put the Native Americans in reservations. We put the World War II, Americans who were of Japanese descent were put in concentration camps here. And I smile at that because, my daughter's alive because of a Japanese diet, and thriving beyond. I mean, she was supposed to live for 5 years. She's 36 because of a basic Japanese diet. And she has been honored by the Native American people. When we attended sun dances, the warriors felt blessed to dance for her. So, the people that we've segregated, and I'm using the word segregation because like we've segregated the blacks, the Native Americans, we've segregated the elderly, and we've segregated the special needs people. And, putting them in institutions or putting them over to the side, or when a mom walks in a room and everybody sits on the other side of the room because they don't want to sit next to a special needs child. I would expect us to be more civilized than that at this point in time. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is a classic. If you haven't read it, it's just a classic. Talks about, how we look at people as either useful to society, and that according to our orientation, or useless. And that usually means the young, the talented, the dancers, the singers. But we lose the dignity of anybody who is otherwise than that. And we miss out on the incredible learning and growth that someone like a mother like me gets from, this is my child, just like any other child as far as I'm concerned. And I'm, the idea of usefulness and non-use, because you're achievement oriented, therefore you're useful. I mean, my daughter, I have grown more as a person because of my daughter. I am a better person. I'm a more soulful person. I'm more more patient. I mean, at every angle. I know things that I would have never known if she hadn't have come into my life and forced me to read and research. And so let's get beyond the tears. When I first saw some comments, because I don't look at the YouTube videos often that I've made for the other parents, on raising Bree, of course, I'm human. It was shocking. Initially, it was very shocking. It was very shocking to see a presidential candidate make fun of the handicapped. I mean, what is happening to us? You know, is this world, what kind of a world are we living in and going to? That we make scapegoats out of people like my daughter. But we've made scapegoats of the Jews, we've made scapegoats of the Native Americans, we made scapegoats of the black. Anything but take responsibility for ourselves. And I think of, you know, what my daughter, she forces me to be in the present moment all the time. She has gotten both of our healths to be excellent because of her needs. She doesn't have a negative thought, you know, and we're all reacting from fear. My daughter is the last person to fear in the whole world. And I know the people that make these comments and the people that mock and make fun of handicapped, they're very fearful people. I know that, and I wish them well, because it's not a way to live. But I would like people to be more aware and more respectful and not so rude. I had one woman many years ago, and she showed me her Bible. It was worn thin with use. And yet this same woman looked at me and said, "Why don't you put your daughter with people of her own kind?" And I'm going, her own kind? Well, I'm her kind. She came from me. I am her kind. We are one and the same. And this poor woman, well, Christian, her Bible's worn thin and she's missed what Jesus said. How you treat the least of my brethren, you treat me. This is Jesus. We're all part of God. I am, you are. And she missed that. Totally. You know, so moms like me put up, and they're silent, and they put up with a lot of rudeness. And it's time now, when it gets to the point where, you know, it gets so public that it's allowed for people to mock. And, you know, our children cannot defend themselves. I mean, that's the worst type of bullying that there is. And so I'm her advocate. I have to speak up and say it's enough. You know, this is not okay. Is it, Bree? And the interesting thing is that, you know, 3/4, if not more, of the world believes in reincarnation. And so anyone watching this can be brain injured like my daughter. Anybody could have an accident tomorrow. Anything at any time. And, you know, anybody seeing this, you could be my daughter, and I would look after you equally. So, you know, remember that who you're mocking, who you're making fun of, we're all children of God, and, you know, we really need to be, I would hopefully, more civilized than that. And you know what is very interesting, in 36 years Bree has never been the problem. It's that embedded belief in our society that looks at my daughter as being useless. Well, my daughter has touched thousands and thousands of people and inspired them through me as her advocate, but I'm responsible. I'm her walking, talking, you know, and, you know, and there is a saying, if you change one life for the better, your life is worthwhile. Well, she's changed my life, definitely. Yes, I've cared for her and changed diapers and fed her and dressed her and read out loud to her and all that stuff. But my God, she saved my soul. And we only take one thing out of here, and that's our soul. We don't take the big houses and the cars and the whatever, the degrees, anything. We take out our soul, and I believe we're here to learn. And the only thing we can take out, and the only thing we can grow, is our souls. I think it was interesting how D.H. Lawrence said that our Western world is like a giant tree that's been uprooted. And when I walk in the forest, I see those giant, massive roots up north, and they're not being nourished for its greater need, for our greater needs. And what are our greater needs as civilized human beings is the loving care of one another, the being present and in the moment with one another. These are our basic core needs. The relating to the beauty and pain that's all around us, being human, being spiritual beings, having a human experience. So, yes, are you giggling at Mom? Yes. So, how I got to be her mom wasn't genetic, but I am so grateful. And getting back to, Bria's never been the problem. It's been the embedded belief in our society that because it's there that someone who doesn't walk and talk and perform is useless, although I don't know where they put Stephen Hawking in there, which is one of the greatest mind, if not the greatest mind, here. Helen Keller, who inspired so many people, and and there was a man named Alan Turing who broke the Nazi codes in World War II and was autistic. And that's just some, My daughter she's so aware of everything. But when you have some person on YouTube saying that your daughter is brain dead, they would kill her, do the humane thing and, let her die, that she's a monster, you go, what is the world coming to that people even think like that? So, we really need to replant that tree, reroot that tree in relating to one another lovingly and being in the present moment and experiencing the pain and beauty of life. That's what life is all about. And, when we leave the planet, and I could talk a lot about this because this man's inhumanity to man is a sad thing. But, so, we leave this planet with energy that doesn't die. So, do we leave it with negative energy of bullying and hurting one another and go sucked into a black hole? Or do we leave it by caring for one another and realizing the dignity and the massive learning of caring for another person, making their life healthy and happy, and making it possible for them to live as long as they need to live on the planet. And then we can go and leave the planet and maybe light up the universe instead of bringing darkness. So I think that's all I can say right now. Have I said enough? You probably go, yeah, Mommy, you said enough. Huh, huh, ha, 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 ha. I said enough. I'm getting the approval.